Calgary is no stranger to flooding. The city has experienced several major floods in its history, some of which caused significant damage and loss of life. In this section, we will look at how Calgary has faced severe flooding in the past, and what are the risks and impacts of future floods. The worst flood to hit Calgary was in 1879, when the Bow and Elbow rivers overflowed their banks due to heavy rainfall and melting snowpack in the Rocky Mountains. There was not much settlement at the time, so the impact was relatively low, but it set a record for the highest water level that has yet to be exceeded. The second worst flood occurred in 1897, when the same factors caused another massive surge of water that tore out bridges, flooded buildings, and displaced about 60 families. The Walker House at the Inglewood Bird Sanctuary replaced the one that was washed down the river in 1897. This flood also prompted some homesteaders to build on higher ground to avoid future disasters. The third worst flood happened in 1902, when the bridge where the Hillhurst Louise Bridge is now was damaged by the raging waters. The Louise Bridge connects Kensington to Calgary's downtown core. This flood also marked the beginning of a series of floods that occurred in the following decades. In 1915, another flood washed away the old Center Street Bridge and claimed one life. In 1929, a flood damaged the newly opened Calgary Zoo. In 1932, Calgary was fortunate to have the Glenmore Dam, which had just been built, to hold back some of the water and prevent more damage. The Glenmore Reservoir went from empty to a matter of inches from being crested in 2 days. The most recent and devastating flood in Calgary's history was in June 2013, when southern Alberta was hit by 100 millimeters of rain. The Bow River flows peaked at 2,400 cubic meters per second, which is 8 times its regular flow rate. The Elbow River inflow peaked at 1,240 cubic meters per second, which is 12 times its regular flow rate. The city issued a flood warning, activated the municipal emergency plan, declared a state of local emergency, and gave an evacuation notice for communities at risk. About 80,000 people were evacuated over the course of the flood. The impact of the 2013 flood was enormous. One Calgarian's life was lost, and there was as much as $6 billion in financial losses and property damage across southern Alberta. Evacuees and people whose homes were flooded faced trauma, loss, and either rebuilding or the permanent loss of their home. Flooding disrupted businesses, damaged critical infrastructure, and led to power outages across Calgary. The city responded by lowering the water level in the Glenmore Reservoir, building temporary flood barriers, and providing emergency services to affected areas. The risk of future flooding in Calgary remains high, as climate change is expected to increase the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events such as heavy rainfall and rapid snowmelt. The city has been working on various flood mitigation projects to reduce the impact of potential floods, such as building new dams, upgrading existing infrastructure, and implementing land use policies. However, these measures may not be enough to prevent another catastrophic flood from happening. The impacts of future floods could be devastating for Calgary's economy, environment, and social well-being. Flooding could cause property damage, business interruption, infrastructure failure, health hazards, environmental degradation, and social disruption. Flooding could also affect Calgary's reputation as a safe and resilient city that attracts tourists, investors, and skilled workers. Therefore, it is important for Calgary to prepare for the possibility of another severe flood by enhancing its flood readiness, response, and recovery capabilities. This involves improving its flood forecasting and warning systems, developing emergency plans and protocols, educating and engaging citizens and stakeholders, strengthening its social networks and community support systems, and learning from past experiences and best practices. In this video, we will explore how Calgary is getting ready for the 2023 flood season by conducting a bold experiment that aims to test its flood preparedness and resilience. Stay tuned for more details on this innovative initiative that could make a difference for Calgary's future. The experiment that Calgary is conducting to get ready for the 2023 flood season is a bold and innovative project that aims to reduce flood damage, enhance water security, and create recreational opportunities for the city. The experiment involves building and operating a new off-stream reservoir west of the city, called the Springbank Off-Stream Reservoir, SR1, which will capture and store excess water from the Elbow River during a flood event. The reservoir will then release the water back to the river when the flood risk is over, ensuring a steady and reliable supply of water for the city and downstream communities. The experiment is expected to have multiple benefits for Calgary and the region. First, it will significantly reduce the risk of flooding from the Elbow River, which was one of the main sources of damage during the 2013 flood that cost $5 billion and affected thousands of residents and businesses. According to the City of Calgary, SR1 will protect Calgary from a 2013-size flood and reduce damages by over $3 billion through the next century. SR1 will also work together with the higher gates at the Glenmore Dam, which is another flood mitigation project that was completed in 2020. Second, it will enhance water security for Calgary and downstream communities by providing a buffer against droughts and climate change impacts. The reservoir will store up to 70 million cubic meters of water, which is equivalent to about half of the volume of the Glenmore Reservoir. This water can be used to supplement the river flow during dry periods or emergencies, ensuring that Calgary has enough water for its growing population and economy. The reservoir will also benefit downstream communities like Spadina Nation, Rocky View County, and Redwood Meadows by improving water quality and quantity. Third, it will create recreational opportunities for the city and the region by transforming the reservoir area into a natural parkland that can be enjoyed by residents and visitors. The reservoir will have trails, picnic areas, viewpoints, and wildlife habitats that will enhance the scenic and ecological value of the area. The reservoir will also provide opportunities for fishing, boating, kayaking, and other water sports when it is full or partially full. The reservoir will be integrated with the existing regional pathway system and connect to other attractions, like Bragg Creek Provincial Park and Elbow Falls. The experiment is expected to be completed by 2025, with functional operation by 2022. It is a collaborative effort between the City of Calgary, the Government of Alberta, TransAlta Corporation, Alberta Environment and Parks, Alberta Transportation, Alberta Energy Regulator, and other stakeholders. The experiment is part of Calgary's long-term vision to build a flood-resilient city that can cope with future challenges and opportunities.